What am I to do when the day is through?
Welcome to He Said, She Said, Raise Your Branding podcast. Michael, today we had a conversation with another guy named Mike, and I loved it. He's a marketing communications leader. He's got a background from Adobe. So, y'all had a darn good conversation about your thoughts on that. But then we got into the real meat of the matter, talking about his work with AudioEye and accessibility. And I think it was eye opening, enlightening, illuminating, all of the good things. And I came away with, I think, more knowledge than before.
Yeah, and I told him at the end of it, I thought he did a really good job of not being threatening or aggressive with it and kind of making you feel bad for it. It's like, you need to do this and you do that. He was very gave a lot of good reasons for taking the time to think about it, to think about how you approach your marketing and your digital representations online, your websites and all this other stuff. And yeah, it was a very positive conversation and a lot of words of wisdom that came from it. I think people can learn a lot from it.
Yeah. And you're right. It was in a very non-threatening way, which I appreciate. I mean, you kind of got off the rails and went onto your own tangent at some point or another. But Mike Barton did a really good job of making everyone feel included in a conversation about inclusivity and accessibility. And I thought it was awesome.
He said I was, what was the word? Enlightening? No,
I thought he said annoying. Was it enlightening?
no, it was something like
Are
poignant,
you
or that was a
sure?
very, he complimented me. He said, I brought up something that he hadn't thought of yet as an expert. He said,
That is
I
true.
haven't thought of that yet. And that was very
You felt
insightful.
good about that?
I can't remember the word though. I have to go back and listen to it because it was a good word.
Okay. All
And I
right.
want to remind you of it every once in a while
I'm sure.
that
I'll have
Mike
some
Barton said.
t-shirts made with that printed across it.
Absolutely. We definitely need a t-shirt press because we have so many ideas. I mean, going
Not
back
we.
to,
You have a running list of words and phrases,
yes,
and
like
I
when we
cannot
were
wait to see the products that come out of it.
Well, it's true. I just the one-off things. Like when we were in Italy, it was like we went to the Doge Palace, and it was like at the time it was it's so Doge, you know.
Yes. It has a
Anyway,
different flavor now.
it doesn't make quite as much sense, but it
I
was
know.
there was a list of I'm keeping a list. And one
I
day,
think I think sometimes you have these really great ideas and you're a little bit vacation drunk. And so we have to see if they make sense when we come back to home, work, sobriety. Is it still impactful? That's
you
how you'll know
just
if it's worth the
if no one's
shirt.
paying attention, they make it sound like I'm an alcoholic. I never drink. You're talking about vacation drunk, so I was high on vacation. Not that I'm
Yes.
on vacation and drinking the whole time, because that doesn't happen.
No, I don't think that was the implication at
That's what it
all.
sounded like. I'm just
Think
clarifying.
it did. I don't think it did. Okay, all of that aside, let's listen to Mike Barton. Hey, Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Appreciate having me on.
Well, we're glad to have you. When I was looking through, because Christina, who's our PR booker person, was telling me that you were scheduled, I was like, well, this is fun. I think this is going to be a great chat. So I think that for us at least, we get to talk to marketing communications people all the time. But you've had a specific path through AudioEye and some of the other work you've done that is different than some of our other guests. So maybe if you don't mind, we could just kind of start at the beginning and tell us a little bit about how you approach and the work you've done in marketing to this point.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of positioning it because I think where I'm at today is definitely informed by where I was, obviously, in the past. And so um, I worked most of my career at Adobe. And at Adobe, there's three business units: the Marketing Cloud, the Creative Cloud, and the Document Cloud. They all have enterprise B2B businesses. And so that's where my focus was. And I created content across those three business units, across those audiences, those industries for almost 14 years at Adobe, across all types of content. So video, PDFs, ebooks, blogs, digital, interactive landing pages, you name it, we probably did a version of it. And so, like I said, that was over a decade there. And at no point, and this is my use case of one, this is not a representation of the larger Adobe ecosystem, but at no point did I say, is this PDF that we're putting out, is this accessible to somebody who might be blind? Is this video that's being created? Does this have all the right alt text and captions and things like that as we're posting it that makes it accessible to somebody who might have a disability that prevents them from consuming it. And so fast forward, I met somebody from AudioEye and was having a conversation with them, and they're like, "Yeah, you haven't thought once about the accessibility of your content." And it was really an illuminating experience to me. And I kind of refer to myself as being unintentionally ignorant, right? It wasn't like I was out there trying to create inaccessible content. I just really didn't know it was a thing, unfortunately. And so that's really one of the main things now that I'm here at AudioEye that I'm trying to do as a marketer is, in addition to helping the business grow, it's really also about like just creating awareness with other marketers and other business professionals and other website owners that, hey, there's a huge market out there that you're likely missing when you're creating inaccessible content. And there's also heavy brand implications as well. And again, most people I talk to have either never thought of digital accessibility or they've got a very basic understanding of what it is and what that means.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I don't think about those things because I don't have to, in the sense of it doesn't directly affect me. But one of the things that I think is so vital for the work we do as communicators is thinking about others, not just how it affects us. That's something we focus on a lot in our business is I am a quick skimmer. I don't read all the details, which
Yeah.
makes Michael a little bit crazy. I need more input, more information, more data to make a decision kind of a guy. So if you're going to create a brochure for us, there's no one brochure that makes both of us happy. And so it's accessibility, but it's also visual learners versus people who need a lot of information and feel confident about a decision. The more we can customize things so that people feel like it's created exactly the way they need it, that's what we're trying to do in marketing altogether, right? Is to talk to people where they are, meet them at their place.
Yeah. And that's like one of the unspoken benefits of creating accessible content and accessible experiences is you're not just doing it for a person with a disability. Usually the improvements that you're making to the design, to the code, to the usability, that impacts all your other audiences who you're already, putting paid money behind, you might be targeting specifically. So as an example, if you go through your site and kind of audit it for, hey, is this clear as it could be for somebody who might have a cognitive disability and who really does need like very short and focused and concise headlines and content and copy. If you kind of take that lens and make improvements, again, at the end of the day, we all want to read uh, quickly. Well, maybe not Mike. It sounds like he wants to, read everything he
I
can.
like words. I like words. What can I say?
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But for those of us who have been trained by social media to consume quick, right, and have shorter and shorter attention spans, those types of best practices, again, for that one audience, benefits everybody. And we find that no matter what disability you're solving for, you're really making the experience better for everybody.
Right. Right. No, absolutely.
Now, one of the sorry, Jackie, just jump in because I've been I love. I know you're not currently with Adobe, but I have a bone to pick with Adobe in general.
I
Um,
knew this was going to turn into an Adobe tech support
no, no, no.
self-help session. Go ahead.
Well, it has to do with the inclusivity sector and all that stuff. And I don't, not really, that's not the right word for that. Because in the past 20 years plus years, I remember Jackie made me throw away all of my Adobe boxes that I had because I had every version every time it upgraded. And it was a
Yeah.
ritual. It was like you get your new Adobe box, you upload software, you all these other things. And then it went digital and then it was subscription based and it was all these evolutions. I mean, the company has really changed with the market.
Yeah.
Versus things like freehand, which I never hear about anymore, or Quark, or things like that. I mean, they've disappeared from the radar, but Adobe has mainstayed and continued to grow and have a voice in today's marketplace. But that being said, and it's a good thing, I'm kind of being jokingly when I say this, the fact that it used to be a special tool, like only certain people had Adobe, and that was a good thing for a designer because it was like, all right, I'm a tradesman, I have the tools to do something above the fray. But now everybody has accessibility to Photoshop. Everybody is this, everybody's this. And it's great that everybody has that ability to play with these toys. because they are very user friendly now. They are so accessible. They are very affordable. From Firefly all the way down to your basic online platforms, video editing, all these different things, and it's just proliferation of that of access into the creative space. But it's also frustrating because now everybody has access to, and so you have people that are jumping in and pressing buttons and doing things, and it's like, and so it's kind of muddied the playing field a little bit, if that
So,
makes sense.
Michael, you want inclusivity as long as you can exclude people you don't think are worthy.
Something like that,
Okay,
but
just to make
only
sure we're recapping. That's the
Yeah.
soundbite for this whole
Yeah,
episode,
I
right?
exactly.
know.
We've got the title ready.
I know it sounds horrible, but again, as a professional though, and they use these tools, like now it's like it keeps getting easier and easier, which is great because my work's faster, it's more effective, I have more things
Right.
to work with in toolkit. But now other people can jump in and say, "Oh, I'll Photoshop that, or I'll do this to that, or I'll do that to that." And there's an easy fix sometimes, a magic button, an AI this,
Hmm.
content generator, whatever it may be. And I used to have to, like, if I had to go in and do something to a photograph or an image, I had to like Photoshop it. I had to go in and work it. I had to
Right.
work layers and I had to use
Right.
tricks and tools. And now I could just hit a button and it drops out the background. I'm like, that took hours before of knowing how to work a pen tool, knowing how to, go in and really kind of cut something out. And I mean, we did down here. We did some oil field work earlier on. We had these tools that we'd have to go in and meticulously go in and cut out every little thing to have it off the page, and hours of work. Doing work with the university here and athletes, hair, and all these different things. Now it's just click, So
Yeah.
it's good and it's frustrating, and I don't know what that has to do with anything. It just had to voice it because it's like, damn it, where are we going?
Yeah, and well, the crazy thing is with a lot of the Gen AI stuff that they've been adding to the product, that is accelerating. And, you know, the least common denominator, aka me, I'm able to do a lot more now than I was in the
Hmm.
past. When, like you said, I'd have to be like, oh, where can I get the 3 hour course on this and learn how to, do this by layer. So it's exciting that way, and that yes, it is kind of democratizing creativity. But at the same time, I'm also wondering, like, just because you have the capability to design something, does that mean you've got like the context to design something that will resonate or that will, if you're talking specifically to branding and advertising, it's not just about the image, right? It's about how it tells this larger story or this larger narrative, or
Yeah.
it's based in some insight. So that's at least where I give myself a little bit of, okay, I don't need to worry as much, right, as the capability becomes more broad. But it is cool to see like how businesses as well are balancing that the use of AI to, like you said, speed up some workflows. So like, hey, I got 5 more hours back in my week. Um, but like now, what do those 5 hours go towards? Is I guess the question, right?
Oh, no, this is a changer. We have CEOs sending us graphics now they did on their free time. Oh, look, I put this video together. And I'm like, okay, you need to stop. You have more important things to do, first of all. And it's basically it's harder than it looks. I mean, when you see the tutorials or somebody online saying this is all I had to do, I'm like, no, you go in and try to do that stuff. It's an animal. I mean, some things are easy, some things turn out mediocre, but when you're trying to do graphics, it's not quite there yet for the common man. And when it is, it's very costly because you have to really pay for a lot of time and trial and error to get to where you need to go. So there is still a job for me and my team, fortunately, for the time being, but it's rapidly changing. And so, where it's going, no one really knows. But yeah, we'll see. Sorry, Jack. I didn't mean to sidetrack, but I had to get that off my chest.
No, I just need to put the regular disclaimer that the views of one host do not represent the views of all hosts, and that some of us do believe in an inclusive world where everyone can get what they
I didn't
need.
say that. I did not say that. I'm talking about something different.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll
There's an
just
asterisk
explain it in
there.
divorce court when I have to go clear my name, because you've sullied the family moniker, and made it sound like you're trying to exclude people from inclusive accessibility.
Okay,
So,
I
Mike
can't.
Barton.
I just on a side note before we move
Oh,
on,
yeah, okay, go
I
on.
can't show up at my doctor and say, "Hey, do you mind if I sit in on this surgery?" Because it's real easy now. I just press a button and let the robot do it. So can I do that? No, you can't do that. So yes, that's not a very inclusive environment. You can't just be a surgeon. you have to go to school and you have to learn how to be a surgeon. Now, I'm not comparing what I do to being a surgeon.
Oh,
I'm
but I
not.
think you just did.
Yeah, I think
Whoa.
I picked that up very strongly.
I
All
literally
right.
think that's what you just
All right,
said.
let's say auto mechanic. Auto mechanic. Well, that doesn't work either. I don't know.
Nope.
There's a good analogy there somewhere. But anyway, I digress. All right, you can
Yeah,
move on.
you digressed us right off a cliff, and I'm putting us back on the road. So, Mike Barton, Mike Russo is going to be quiet for a minute. Let's talk about more about digital accessibility, where we want more people to have access to things, not just Premiere tools, which obviously threatens Michael Russo's status in the world. So, talk about that. Talk about kind of these pieces and what you see, how far we've come, and where we're headed. Kind of shape it for us.
Yeah, so I'll start with just kind of the foundational level of what is digital accessibility. Because, like I said at the beginning, as I talk to people, they kind of guess and kind of assume what that means. But really, it just means that a website, a digital property or experience, a mobile app can be used by somebody who's blind or who's deaf, and they can get the same experience, understand the same content, achieve the same objectives as somebody who doesn't have that same disability. And so just think about everything you did online yesterday, right? You worked, you probably sat in Zoom calls, you might have checked the news, your financial portfolio, maybe even had some medical results you had to log in and check out, communicated with friends and family. So, like, it's very obvious to say this, but our world is completely digital, and that adds efficiencies, right? It means you don't have to leave the house for a lot of stuff, which means you can get more work done or spend more time with your family. It just elevates our lives. And so, a person who's blind, as an example, uses assistive technology to access the internet. So they have what's called a screen reader, and as the technology implies, that screen reader will literally go through the code of the website and read the header and read the navigation and give them opportunities to click. And so what you and I might see on the page and be able to ascertain from the context, that person can only understand what is read to them from that technology. And so if the code is built incorrectly, then they don't know where they are, they don't know where they're going. And if they go to buy something, they might get frustrated enough where they say, I've got to take my business elsewhere to a site that was built for someone with a disability. And so blind people will use screen readers. You've got people with mobility impairments who can't use a mouse. And so they just use a keyboard to get through your site. So that's another trap that a lot of sites aren't built correctly. So you tab enough on your keyboard and you get stuck in an interactive element or like a image carousel. And so they literally cannot move any forward in your site. And so that's the kind of context and the world that we live in. Like, we all, again, get that fulfillment in a digital world. And for a lot of people with disabilities, websites, the digital door is closed and they're just not able to access it. Or again, they have so much frustration with trying to access the content they want or achieve that action that they want, that they'll just give up and go elsewhere. So it's frustrating. In many cases, it violates privacy issues for them where they're like, hey, I can't access that medical record. Family member, can you tell me what the results were, right? And like, depending on what you went in for, you might not want your family member to be reading that type of information to you, right? So it's really comes down to, again, building and coding so that these technologies allow people with disabilities to access content, and so that we create an experience digitally for all. And again, that doesn't mean that your site has to be branded less flashy, right? You don't have to change your site and like bring it down a notch or two, so to speak, so that it is now accessible. You can still have all the flash, you can still have all the design in the world, you can still say what you want to say, but you're just building it on the back end in a way that is accessible for everybody.
Right.
What about for like, businesses that, and just, I'm a small business and I have a website and I'm trying to apply the things that you're applying to that. Kind of like, I want to eat better, but it kind of costs a lot sometimes to eat better, like to buy good food and to buy healthy things and all that. So from a business side, you want to do all these things, but then, okay, I got to go hire a specialist. I got to find somebody that actually specializes in and accessibility code and making sure that we're up to requirements and compliance and all these different things. So now there's added cost in there, there's added time. You may have to go and reevaluate everything and start from scratch and all these other things. So the cost element to that, how would you answer somebody who has those kind of questions?
Yeah. So one, and this is a bit of the stick, and I'll get to the carrot. But one, especially if you're a small business, the cost is actually probably not as much as you might think to utilize like a technology that you can just install on your site that will uh, scan and find and fix a good amount of issues just automatically and take care of those. You still do need to, like you said, work with an expert who can help you maybe audit your key flows that technology can't find. But if you're an e-commerce, right, it's like, all right, let's look at our product page templates, let's look at our homepage, let's look at the checkout flow. And as long as like 80% of those templates are accessible, right, you're good shape. So on the one hand, it's not as expensive, I think, as most people think. You're not hiring developers. You don't have to largely change your flows. And that cost is very very often much less than a lawsuit that you might get. So a lot of companies will also say, yeah, I'm not going to worry about it until I get sued. And then the lawsuit comes and, it's like, oh, that was a lot more than I thought it would be. So that's the stick, which exists. I don't like to talk about too much, although that was the first part of my answer. But the carrot part of it is, um, especially in today's economic environment where a lot of these small businesses, they're not looking to invest a lot more to, new markets or new audiences. How do I get more out of the audiences that I have? And so we like to say that essentially when you open your doors to people with disabilities, um, people who are likely already coming to your site, if you've got an accessible site, they're going to convert. And people with disabilities, we found both from a kind of data perspective and also in just talking to them, they're a very loyal uh, cohort because it is hard to find sites that prioritize accessibility. And we say prioritize accessibility kind of generally, but when a person with a disability hears that, what they're hearing is you prioritize me, right? You're prioritizing me and my experience that is different from a lot of other people who are coming to your site. And so that means a lot to them. It's not just that they can buy that new shirt they needed. It means I found a site who I know I can go back to and will have an easier experience for me. They then tell their friends. Friends and family of people with disabilities is like 13 trillion dollar market worldwide. In the US, people with disabilities have like a $20 billion spending capacity. So we're not talking small numbers. So I like to also say like the impact of this audience, their buying impact, is often a misperception that it's a very small number, but in reality, we're actually talking a large number of people who are looking to do things on your site. And then, like I said, there's just brand recognition as well that you can be out there. A lot of people will put money behind brands that have a purpose or brands that they feel like mean something and that they can relate to. And so that's another way to really, add another layer to your brand as well. That hey, we're inclusive. We're out here making content and making experiences for all potential users.
In preparation for this conversation, I did some digging around just on accessibility because I wanted to sound way smarter than Michael did a minute ago. And one of the things that once you start telling the algorithm you're interested in a topic, it's going to serve up more of what you're asking for. And so it brought me to a video of a woman who was arriving at the door of a public restroom, and it was different than any signage I've ever seen before because it didn't just have women's or men's restroom with Braille so she could read the name. It also had a Braille layout of what was going to be on the other side of the
Mm,
door. I'm sure you've seen that before, Mike. This is like your backyard. But I was fascinated because it had never occurred to me because it doesn't directly affect me that when someone who is visually impaired walks into a restroom, they don't know where the handicap stall is or any stalls.
right.
They don't know where the sink is. They don't know where the paper towels are. And so I can only imagine the challenge of navigating in a foreign space. And I appreciate they walk into rooms all the time where they don't know anything is, but specifically in a bathroom, you're just so vulnerable, you know? And so it was fascinating to hear her talk about how that changed the dynamic of her being able to enter the room. And so, I think that I take my sight for and all of my senses for granted all the time. And so the work you're doing to make all of us think about how to communicate in a more accessible way, I think it's good.
Yeah. Well, you've mentioned a few times this idea that one, you don't have a disability, so you're not thinking about it, which is 100% like I think that is what most of us deal with, right? Like you're taking your vision or your hearing for granted, not for
Right.
granted, but you're just not thinking what's this exact experience like for somebody who can't hear or see in this case. But the other thing that's part of that as well is like in the physical world you see disability more, or you see solutions to disability
Yes.
more. So you'll see automatic doors, you'll see curb cuts, right, allowing a wheelchair to go up on you'll see parking spots to set aside, right? And so all these visual cues, at least in the physical world, kind of remind you, oh yeah, there's a solution here for those people who have disabilities. Um, eh, but in the digital world, that's all behind the scenes. So there are no visual cues, so to speak, reminding us of disability. And when we as marketers and business professionals are building content and building sites, similarly, we're in the code, right? Like you're in this digital matrix and you're not explicitly thinking about accessibility. So that's part of the challenge is we need to like ingrain it in our coders and developers and designers and content marketers. Like from the beginning, you're building content for all, right? So be thinking about how that experience needs to be built correctly. And again, just this analogy I'm using of physical space versus digital space that highlights another point that I've also brought up, which is that when you fix for a disability or build for a disability, I should say, it really improves the experience for all users. So again, think about that curb cut going up a sidewalk. A mom who's walking down the street with her stroller and her baby, she's using that curb cut, which was designed for somebody in a wheelchair. When you got a bunch of returns from Amazon that you got to take down to the UPS store, and that automatic door opens for you with your, arm full of packages. That's a huge benefit to you, but that was not built for you and your packages. That was built for somebody with a disability. And so, tons of examples like that, right? Siri, talk to your Xfinity, all built initially for as solutions for people with disabilities, but now we all use it every day because it makes things easier for us as well. And so I think those are just prime examples, again, in the physical world. And it's exactly the same as we build those digital sites that I think if the more we can move away from thinking, oh, I'm building this experience for a blind person. No, you're building a better experience for everybody. So,
I think that's important to think about because that idea of approach, because you said, there's like if I'm running a large company, I'm across multiple geographic areas. I'm sizable. I have a lot of money involved. I am looking at it from a CFO or CEO perspective. Yes, there is potential of a loss, somebody getting mad in a lawsuit. There is potential of losing a customer along the way. But how do you address the fact if somebody comes back and just a pragmatic running a business way, because people have to run businesses and they say, you know what, that is a small demographic of who I'm looking at. And I'm looking at numbers. I'm looking at who do I spend my dollars on? Where do I go get these people at? I can't talk to everybody because we talk about that a lot. We can't talk to everybody. We got to talk to certain people. We got to really have a sniper approach to who we're spending our money with and where it's going, messaging wise and from a media buy wise. So I guess what I'm getting at, part of this has to be because you want to do it. There's got to be a want, like it's kind of the right thing too, And
mhm.
but what you just said was a great selling point though, because if you're doing this stuff, it's probably going to be better for all. You know what I'm saying? Like if you take the time to make sure that your messaging is right and clean and easy to read and inaccessible in a lot of different formats and ways, and you're able to flow through that and have not clunky and not this and not that, you're already taking steps towards that goal, even if you don't think about it. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. If you're looking at site optimization, you're looking at reducing friction,
Hmm.
creating as few steps to complete that purchase or that goal as possible for any user. And yeah, accessibility is going to help you with those areas as well. It's the old rising tide lifts all boats. I think digital accessibility and those types of best practices are a prime example of a rising tide that then lifts all your other efforts that you're doing.
Hmm.
Well, and I think you make that point with curb cuts and automatic doors. Everybody does benefit. And so is there a checklist? I mean, I know like I think for websites, there's a specific checklist of things that every website builder knows that they need to do to make that site accessible to everyone. But in regular marketing materials, I don't feel like there's as much of a checklist. So do you have a guide that you can help people kind of get their heads around it since it doesn't directly affect them?
Yeah, great question. So also a little bit of foundation. The a lot of websites build accessible around what's called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and so these there's single A, double A, triple A in terms of rating. The double A and triple A, or excuse me, the single A and double A are what most businesses work towards, and so there are 56 tests which account for almost every scenario and disability that might exist. So these criteria, when used, will help build an accessible experience. Now, there's 56, that's a lot. An interesting thing that we found as we've done scans of websites. So, like we did something called the Digital Accessibility Index 2 years ago. We refreshed it earlier this year, where we scanned 15,000 sites. We found that the average web page had close to 300 accessibility issues. Like that's per page, not the entire website. And a lot of that can, be understood when you think if an image doesn't have quite the right alt text. Think, you're right, there's so many images on a page. Links are another thing that are often built quickly. And so a link that is built accessible will say, click here to learn more about whatever, or click here to view our product page on yellow shirts, right? Very specific, very clear. I know where I'm going. If it just says click here, it's not accessible because I've got to click to find out where I'm going. So you've got all these links, you've got all these images, you've got lots of forms. Forms are also very inaccessible. And so while there are 56 criteria, there's really a number of very common issues. And so like if a marketer or a site builder can really focus in on the navigation and the headings, making sure that those are coded correctly, ensuring that all images have descriptive alt text. And again, descriptive so that somebody who cannot see can understand the context of the image and what's there. And same thing with links. If those types of things can be built correctly, you're going to make a lot of headway towards accessibility. Now, there's a lot of other complex things that, again, working with an expert can help identify and code correctly. But there are also, the 80/20 rule, right? There's a handful of issues that are just the most common. And if businesses can focus and fix those, they're going to be much farther down their journey of accessibility. So, and I'll just kind of say this as well. Accessibility, another misperception about it is that it's something that you can build and code, and then I've done it. I've built an accessible site, congratulations, which is good. Thank you. I'm glad you did. It's much needed. There's so many inaccessible sites. But then in 3 weeks, your designer comes along and says, hey, although these guys are out here with AI, I designed something really cool. And we need to update the site's branding. We need to change the color. So now you go and update the site that was accessible. So my point being, accessibility is really an ongoing journey. As you're building, as you're coding, it just needs to be something that's considered. And again, there are checklists at AudioEye. We've got, social media best practice checklist, email checklist, video checklists. But again, it's really just starting and understanding some of those low-hanging fruit that are often inaccessible, that are easy to fix and really impact the experience for a person with a disability.
I would think it's even complicated more now because of the low bar to entry for design. A lot of people are doing their own design work. They're doing their own ads. I mean, I'm not to bring it back, Jackie. Don't smirk.
I'm
I
saying,
see
way to
you.
bring it back, Michael. Way to bring it back.
No, because I think there is there isn't the same just in storytelling or visual storytelling. It's a little messier now when things are being done. And like I'm a kind of old school, and I came up with we had computers when I was in college, but our instructor wouldn't let us use them. We had to do everything by hand. So we learned fundamental ad design. It was like headline, body copy, image, call to action, contact. And you read, Z pattern, left to right, down and
Mhm.
across. And there was a process in visual storytelling and how you process an ad. And I tell people all the time, like, yeah, creativity is important, but we're in the business of communication. And we have to
Mhm.
communicate things first. And
Yeah.
then don't let design overrule that. And I think right now, especially with digital world, there isn't as much of a formulated thing with that. Everybody kind of like Picasso. Picasso broke the rules because he knew how to paint. I mean, if people look at Picasso, he had some
Mhm.
masterful artwork before he started doing cubism and things like that. You can't just break the rules off the go. You have to learn how to do the basics, right?
Right.
What I'm getting at is like the design has how it's designed is just as important as the technical aspects of it. What is your color ratios? What is your balance? You
Mhm.
can't have a dark color on a dark field.
Right.
Those things don't translate for people that are visually impaired. Again, if you're hearing something audio wise, is it telling the story properly? Do you start with the header and the subhead, and then you go into the story and you have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you finish with the call to action? What do I want you to do? And this is how you do it. That is the art of a storytelling without all the flowery stuff that goes on inside of there. There is a formula that works, and even in digital world, it still works. It may be condensed, it may be simplified, but you still have to follow those rules. And I think that's important to think about too. And I don't know if you agree with that or not, but as far as the accessibility issue, how people process that information visually.
Yeah, I've never thought about it that way, but I like it a lot. It's really kind of also saying in another way that um, double checking your accessibility and double checking your accessibility best practices almost a rubric of, am I telling a story? It almost helps to kind of, like you said, ensure that you do have those checkpoints in the story covered, that it's built so that it, like you said, reads in the way that you want to communicate. And so I think that's a really astute observation that accessibility does support storytelling. And inaccessibility probably also supports more random, just I'm throwing messages and ideas on a page that I think look cool, right? As opposed to like the core message and core story and narrative that you want to tell.
Jackie, did you hear all that?
I heard it.
It was really astute.
The new title of the show.
Mike was really astute. I love that. No, and
I do
I
not
do.
think that's the title of the show ever, Mike Barton, ever.
That was very complimentary. I just want to point it out for later. So, because Jackie gets a lot of compliments, but no, I agree. I think those things are important, and again, when anytime we're doing something, I think you said like the benefits that come from being accessible to things, that's part of it. If you're doing a good job, if you're keeping things clean and simple, if you're going through the steps in the process, all the checklists, all those things, you should already be doing some of that because that's good marketing, that's good advertising, that's good branding, is to take those steps and not just throw something out there or be reckless with it. It's like, let me be thoughtful in what I'm trying to say and how I'm trying to say it. Because when I write, I really try to do like I am imagining how they're going to read it, and I'm trying to write it the way I want them to read it. Like, do I have the
Yeah.
right trigger, the right pause, the right comma? I get kicked all the time by our proofers because like you can't put that comma or there's no that you don't need that you
Mhm.
don't need that. I'm like I want that because I want them to stop. I want them to
Right.
pause and then I want them to go. And sometimes it breaks some English rules and I know I can't do that. But I write in that style because I really think about conversational writing, and how are they going to read that back and say, oh, this is just another marketing slick, or are they talking to me? Are they telling me my story? And I think that does fall into all those considerations as well as the technical side, you know.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And you talk about being brought into the story. I feel like that's just another communication best practice that's often overlooked today is we are just telling stories. We're not inviting people in to a story. And that's when I think you really start to resonate with your audience, again, whether they have a disability or not. If they feel like they're not being talked to, but that the conversation that's happening could be theirs. And as you're in whatever you're writing or whatever story you're telling, you're probably helping them change a perspective or recognize that, like, oh, what we're talking about here, that could be me. So, like, right, as we talk about people who don't understand digital accessibility or aren't thinking about it, we're thinking about those misconceptions that people have, and we're thinking about how do we draw them in so that they realize we're not just talking about this important topic, but they're saying, oh, yeah, I've said before that or thought before that a blind person doesn't need to use my product. But the reality is actually they could. I didn't think about it that way. So I think the more, yeah, that we can create storytelling that, to your point of, being sniper focused on an audience, it's hard to do that if you don't have a sniper focus on the audience and actually know what their perceptions or barriers might be. But when you identify those and can really draw them in, I think that's where the power of storytelling and the power of these types of narratives really impact them and cause them to shift their perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big buzzword nowadays. And you're right. You nailed it. The misconception of that is somebody says, well, I'm going to tell my story and I'm going to talk about me and I'm going to tell you how great I am and I'm going to tell you about my history.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you what I do and how I do it. And they never talk about, well, how what I do can benefit your life, how what I do
Mhm.
can enhance what you do, from the smallest things day to day to the bigger picture. Why am I worth paying attention to is the question. Why should I care? And if we can answer
Yeah.
that just on a branding standpoint, we're heading in the right direction. And
Right.
that all
Yeah.
kind of starts with understanding your audience, understanding who you're talking to.
Yep. Yeah. Good marketing, I think, which we've seen, and to your point, says, look at this. And I think great marketing says, hey, this might be you. So,
Yeah, I like the way that said. That's good. Jackie, I
I
see
was
you
just wondering if I
thinking.
was still a part of this. I was going to let y'all finish having your bro time.
Jackie hates when I talk. Sometimes I don't talk a
I
lot.
do
And then,
not. I love when you get involved. Sometimes it's just not my turn and I have to wait patiently.
all right, your turn. Tag.
Thanks. Appreciate that. So Mike, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. I feel enlightened and educated on it. I feel like hopefully our listeners will too. What's the sage wisdom that you extend to the marketers who, to Michael Russo's point, are inundated, short-staffed, overwhelmed, trying to kick out, 1,500 sizes of digital ads, and now they also have to think about being inclusive. And I say that tongue in cheek because I appreciate the priority of it, but how do they fit it all in?
no, I mean, not even tongue in cheek. Like, we hear that all the time from
Okay.
people, right? Like, I this is important. I get it. I see the value in this, not only from to Mike's point earlier, it's the right thing to do. Like, I should be building it so all people can access my site. But from a business perspective, like, I know I should do it. There's likely additional customers out there, and they're going to be loyal. But I've got five other priorities I've been working on, and I'm already 6 months behind, and my budgets haven't increased at all. So I really like the idea of this, but now is not the right time, right? So we deal with that. I say deal with it. It's a reality. It's not something to deal with. It's just the reality of business. And so I think the other misperception, which we talked a little bit about, is I do have to do all that on my own. And the reality is, there's companies like AudioEye that are around and have the technology and the expertise to make it as easy as possible. So my answer, I hate that it sounds a bit like a sales pitch. Like, hey, we've got this problem. What's the answer? Well, the answer is us, right? I don't want to make it sound like that, but there is technology and there are experts who, again, for quite reasonable costs, much lower than I think a lot of people assume, can help install very easy technology that, like I said, finds and fixes a good amount of issues automatically, and experts who can work with you to identify issues and then even provide the fixes for you, right? Like making it as almost as no touch for companies as possible. And there's some companies who just give me the what I need to do and we'll build it, but most companies that we find want somebody else to deal with it. And there's new regulations every year. In a couple of days, we're recording at the end of June. In a couple of days, the European Accessibility Act goes into account. So another landmark legislation. Again, that's from a global perspective, but things like that are being announced on the regular, and businesses just don't have the time to stay up to date on those or the WCAG criteria that I discussed earlier, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So I think the answer is start, look for those solutions that will help you get accessible, and realize that uh, the best place to, and again, it sounds so cliche, but especially for something that hasn't been worked on, is just start. If that means downloading a social media best practice guide and starting to make your social media images more accessible, that's a great first step. You don't need to have your site be 100% accessible and compliant tomorrow, but find those places where you know you can start and do that. And like I said, there's technology, there's experts who can help and teach the best practices to the teams that you have.
I think it's such an important topic, and I really appreciate you bringing your time and expertise to it. It's so funny when we say, we're going to interview marketers for this podcast. I always have this expectation that it's going to be the straight line of, oh, well, I'm in the Ogilvy School of Marketing, and this is how I bring marketing techniques and successful case studies. And it's never that. We have had the most fascinating conversations around marketing for all of these really important pieces that I think so many people don't take into consideration because they're just so busy trying to get the job done.
100%. I've rarely met somebody who knows about digital accessibility and says, right, has a negative perspective. It's
Right.
just that they haven't thought about it, they haven't given it the time of day. And again, it's just because they're busy at work. They've got families and friends and other responsibilities and service they're doing outside the house and the workforce. And so I do find this is a super important conversation discussion. So I also appreciate you letting me come on and talk about it as well, because I want to talk to the me's of 5 years ago and 10 years ago who are creating really awesome content, really cool programs like messages and stories and content that I know resonates. But again, new me talking to old me, saying those are awesome experiences, but there's a wall between a number of people being able to access it. So again, I appreciate the time. I think it is about awareness and just understanding and uh, being more recognizing of the types of individuals who are accessing our content.
Yeah. Have you started an awards program to recognize people who have done all these things to be accessible? Talking about the
It's
carrot and the
funny.
stick.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. We've talked about it a number of times, haven't actually gone down the road yet, but um, both customers and non-customers, we agree it's very easy, and we've found ourselves sometimes focusing on the places that it's not working, and that's the easy part is to focus on where it's not working, but we don't enough focus on the companies who are making a great effort and the companies
Right.
who are striving. And, we do that occasionally through case studies and quotes and things like that. But I agree. I think there's an opportunity to, through a more formal award program, recognize not only companies, but the individuals within
Yeah.
those companies who are driving that change and who have had uh, whether it's a change of heart or just the passion or the recognition of the business impact. I think that's something we want to definitely do in the coming months and year.
Yeah, I don't think you'd
I
want
think
to
that'd
get
be good.
into like a certification thing because that's a little hairy and messy waters,
Mhm.
But at the same time, being able to put out these awards for or recognitions of somehow for a corporation to be able to put that on their website. We were honored by, this company that specializes in this, and they said we have for our efforts, whatever it is. You don't have to promise
Yeah,
that it's perfect, but just that alone can be put into their portfolio as a badge of honor, and which is a great, possible business recruiting tool as well. You start seeing your name. I mean, a great marketing vehicle to put out there in the world.
yeah, love it. That's a great idea.
Thank you. It was mine, not Jackie's.
Wow. I feel so much love today. So, Mike Barton, tell me where the people can reach you so that they can do a better job with this moving forward.
Yeah, so being at AudioEye, I'll, plug a great opportunity we have there. So if you just go to audioeye.com, almost any page you can find a link to a free scanner. And so that's a tool we have, to your point earlier as well about where do we start? It's an opportunity to put in your URL and it'll scan your site and come back with you and say, hey, here's your top issues. Here's how many errors we found on your site. Are you compliant or not compliant? If you're finding yourself going to use that tool, most likely you won't be accessible and compliant. But that's a great first start, is just awareness of where does my site sit. And again, that's through automation. Automation can currently capture about 50 to 60% of the issues. You still would need somebody to go through. So again, when you go, you'll see what your site comes back as. And then the reality you have to remember is, oh, it's actually probably a little bit worse than this, because this is only some of the issues that automation can find. But I go there. We also, if you go to our blog, you'll find a number of best practices to your questions earlier across all marketing channels, across building and coding, that if you apply those 7 to 10 best practices, you're getting yourself much, much closer to creating those accessible experiences.
All right. I mean, that's it. That's all there is to say. We'll put links to all of that in the notes of the show. Mike Barton, Thank you for your time and your attention to this important matter. And we really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And it's been a great conversation.
Thanks.
When the day is through.